The legal issues are really serious. These are major felonies. These are conspiracy to commit wire fraud and related charges. The players could face conceivably years in prison if they're convicted. Obviously, they haven't been able to tell their side of the story yet, so we'll find out how the defense surfaces. But super serious, and the allegations are that there's a player, there's a coach, a former coach, all of whom, of course, have access to information. A player can change his play to further bets. And there's even ties, alleged ties to the Mafia. So there's a lot here that will take a while to unpack.
And we heard during the news conference that the NBA is cooperating with this investigation that has spanned a number of years. What do you think the NBA is doing right now as it tries to sniff out any other potential problems? What do you think is happening inside the MLB, the NFL, the NHL?
Yeah, so one of the challenges for all of these leagues is that they're not law enforcement. They don't have the ability to issue subpoenas. They don't have the ability to compel witnesses to talk. They're really contractually bound in terms of their authorities. So they can do a lot as to investigations. And the NBA investigated Terry Rozier, who was one of the players that was charged today, and didn't find wrongdoing. Now, the NBA, again, doesn't have the same access to information that law enforcement can do. And law enforcement, of course, can threaten people. I mean, this is the real power of the Justice Department. They can get a witness and tell the witness, you're going to be charged unless you cooperate. The NBA can't do that. So the leagues are all going to be, I'm sure, super diligent. They already are, to be honest. They already work with gaming partners to try to monitor activity, but they are bound a bit by the fact that although they're powerful, they're ultimately just private businesses.
What kind of message is this sent when the FBI director comes up from Washington, D.C. to participate in this press conference alongside the other folks in the New York City area?
It's certainly prioritizing it as a matter of interest, that illegal gambling is something that the Justice Department and the FBI will look into with great scrutiny. Now, a cynic may say that they're doing this because the media will cover it and that it is a high-profile event that is intended to get headlines. And so I imagine the defense will likely argue that this is really trying to aggrandize a topic in a way that doesn't warrant it.
Do you expect that there's going to be changes, Michael, to how the leagues set out their policy for players and other personnel when it comes to sports betting, sports gambling? I mean, there's obviously it's banned when it comes to their own teams, and it's not something that they're supposed to be doing. But as we've seen, that's not the case. How else can they crack down harder?
I think one thing is that leagues can crack down harder by pushing gaming companies to drop these prop bets. This isn't the whole story, but a lot of this stems from prop bets, the idea that you can bet on how a player will do in a particular sequence in a game. So in other words, a basketball player, will that player get more than 2 rebounds in the second quarter? The reality is that it's really hard to monitor to see if the player is actually doing something a little fishy or not, because we don't really notice, right? That may not affect the outcome of the game. A player might get hurt. The fact that these players involved allegedly feigned injuries, how do you say someone's not hurt? I mean, it creates a lot of awkward terms of a compliance. So part of the problem, I think, is prop bets in general, that they're offered by gaming companies. I know that the NCAA's president, Charlie Baker, has spoken out against prop bets. They're really difficult to monitor. Of course, that's not the whole problem. There's all sorts of issues with this industry in terms of the pervasiveness of advertising, getting young people, college students to bet. There are a lot of areas of concern that need greater scrutiny that go way beyond the leagues, in my opinion.
So one of the things I learned just thinking and reading about betting in sports, illegal betting, is it's actually been pretty prevalent in lower level tennis matches that kind of fly under the radar, but it's just 2 individuals on a court, and that's where they've seen a lot of issues, which I wouldn't have thought about. I didn't think there was that much money there, but what's your sense of how pervasive, I don't know, game fixing, match fixing? I mean, we see it all over the world, European soccer as well. It feels like it's much more pervasive than we know.
I think it is. And I think for that reason that you just noted, that it's these low-level events that don't get a lot of detection. Why are people betting on ping pong and low-level tennis and these other sort of obscure things? And the reality is that I think that people are addicted to betting, and that this is their channel to bet on sports and very hard to monitor. So the question becomes, I think, the legal question is, should the market allow these bets? I mean, that's really the fundamental question. And many would say, well, people are adults and they can do what they want. We let people buy stocks, speculate on property, all sorts of things. Why do we take away betting from them? And that is an area of resistance. On the other hand, I think we should all be concerned, particularly when it involves high school students and college students, right? I mean, these are not people that are fully mature.